everyone, I have an announcement. Drumroll. I'm no longer working at that art school. And I know this is probably going to be a little bit puzzling because I recently uploaded the video about casual work where I was all like, yeah, jobs and stuff. But yeah, no, well, see, the thing is, I can't really talk about problems so much when I'm currently being employed by someone, so I was trying to be like a good little girl and not be like, oh, actually I hate this job that I've got. Yeah, so this video I'm going to talk about some of the things, and then I will also, I guess, go over some of my Facebook posts, because like I wasn't originally gonna do this video. It was gonna be just like maybe make it a patron only one on Patreon, but now I feel like I'm free enough that I don't have to pretend anymore. So technically I think I was fired, but it was also sort of mutual. We had this conversation last night. I had a conversation with the boss lady, and she was saying, I think, you know, my art skill in terms of traditional art wasn't really at the standard that she's hoping for. And she didn't mind that so much as long as I was going to do all the homework behind the scenes to, you know, get on top of things and be able to teach it to the kids. And, you know, like, not everyone is an expert in every art form that they're going to be teaching, so that's fine. But we're having a conversation, and, like, I was actually already hating this job, so I kind of just played along with the whole, like, oh yeah, look, I don't know if I can keep up, and, you know, I've got these things, and blah, 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 blah. So yeah, I didn't fight for this job at all. I was like, oh my god, I'm so happy we are having this conversation, because, like, so it's based on school terms, and I don't know about other countries, but in Australia, school terms, there's 4 terms a year, and we are about 3 weeks into term 4. And for me, I kind of feel like it's a bit shit to leave a job in the middle of school term. I feel like you should get to the end of it and then leave so that the kids have some kind of continuity. It's this weird sense of duty that I have. Duty is something that makes me do a lot of things that I don't actually want to do. I just, like, would feel so terrible not doing them that I get stuck in these sorts of situations. So when she gave me the option to leave early without any guilt, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to play along with this. I'm going to make you feel like it was your idea, because I'm not a fan of face-to-face confrontation. It takes me a lot longer to get my thoughts together when someone's like reacting in real time. It's just like too much for my brain to process, I think. Whereas if I'm typing, or I guess making a video, like, I can edit things and, you know, it's just easier. But anyway, so where was I up to? We're having this conversation. She mentioned something about last week that I apparently did wrong, but I have no idea what she's talking about, unless it's just that I was teaching painting in a different way to how she teaches painting, and I wouldn't necessarily say that's the wrong way to paint or to teach painting, because there's so many ways to do the same thing and get a good result. So yeah, I don't know, something about last week made her think that I'm not good enough at the art side of stuff, which is really bizarre, because one of the things I was doing at this art school is you do a sample, and then the sample is like your example that you show to the kids. And yeah, she actually didn't get me to do any last week, so it's not like she actually saw what my art is like. She just saw how I was struggling to teach these kids who were so badly behaved last week. I don't know why. The first week they were fine, but then last week they were just awful, and I'm not experienced with kids, and I've told her this, and she's like, oh, that's fine, you know, we can teach you to teach. It's the art things that you need to already have. And I'm like, okay, sure. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what she was thinking about last week, but yesterday, oh my god, so do I tell you that story now or towards the end? Hey, I had planned to structure this video, but now that I am ranting, let's go off topic, and if I repeat things later on, it's because I've forgotten what I already said, because I'm not sticking to my script. But yeah, no, so yesterday, with the way the art classes are run, it's like every 3 weeks they start a new project. So I was preparing for the project that would start in week 4, and last week she had told me, oh, it's going to be with graphite, so basically pencils, you know, 2B, 4B, 6B, H pencils, whatever. So, because, like, I mean, I draw, but I haven't really done a whole lot of it formally, and it's been a while since I tried to do proper drawings. So I was like, okay, look, I'm gonna go away. I even told her, like, I'm gonna go away, I'll watch tutorials, I'll refresh on all that kind of stuff and, you know, do a bit of practice and whatever. I didn't show her this full page because you can see the text that I've written. Everything is stupid. This is just like watching YouTube tutorials. I made that, and you can see, like, even with my, I don't know how well it shows in the camera because I'm getting this weird light thing going on, but I've done it so that it's a ball on a white surface, so instead of the bottom being completely black, like from shadow, it's got a little bit of a light reflection on the bottom, which is kind of fun. But I didn't show her that because I wrote the text. I showed her my keyboard key, that little X, and she had no idea what it was because I guess she's one of those people who doesn't use a real keyboard anymore. Real keyboards are awesome. Typing on real keys is so much better than using a touchscreen. But whatever, if you don't want to own a real computer and you just use touchscreens, that's up to you. I don't know if she actually does that. That's just like the impression I got. But anyway, so I spent all this time watching really like the tutorials on YouTube are fine. It's just that it's hard to find one that goes like, here's a beginner thing and then a more advanced and like progressing, because sometimes it's hard to find a series of tutorials. You're kind of jumping from video to video and then it gets very repetitive. But I did like find 6 ways of shading. I think it was 6, and I was just trying to figure out which one she wanted me to teach these kids. But so I did all that, and I'm all set to do a sample yesterday in the shift, and then she tells me, oh, actually, we're going to do charcoal. I'm just like, if you wanted me to brush up on charcoal, you should have told me last week. I didn't say that to her. I was just like, okay, because I kind of shut down in person when I, like, you know, someone threw something unexpected at me, and my brain's like, are you for real? And what do I say to this? So, you know, like, I've done charcoal like 10 years ago, the first time I did art school, and I've done bits and pieces of it here and there, but like, I don't know formally different things, you know, the way you would teach it. I don't know what, like, the particular methods, like, I can make it up and get a result, and it's fine, but I don't have it in a structured way. And if there's a particular way that she wants me to do it, I don't have a clue. So, you know, I sat down and I was like, well, shit, now I gotta do charcoal, and I'm doing the charcoal thing. And, oh, the other thing is, she told me I could only use 3 tones because that's all the kids can really handle. I'm teaching really young kids, like from the ages of 6 till 8 years old, maybe. So she's like, oh, so you've got to break it up into dark tones, mid tones, and light tones. And I'm like, 3 tones to get, okay, fine, so that's what I'm trying to do. And I think she's looking over my shoulder and is like, oh, that's not really good, kind of thing. I'm like, what do you expect? So anyway, like, the thing that frustrated me is I did all this work and then she just flips the script on me, throws out all the work that I've been doing in the past week, and then expects me to be an expert in something she's just thrown at me. It was just, it was really frustrating. So I went on a little bit of a ramble there, but yeah, no, when we were having this conversation, it was after she'd looked at my little charcoal thing, which was in progress. Like, it wasn't anywhere close to finished, and towards the end, after this conversation, I sort of tried to make it a little bit better and not so dodgy. And I mean, they have these terrible fluorescent track lighting, so I'm like, how do you, this subject's not even lit so that I can see where the shadows are properly, but whatever, doing my best with that. Like, the shadow that it cast from the top, instead of, it was this jug, and a jug's kind of this round thing, and instead of having a round shadow, it had a square shadow like this, because the way the light was, it's just, like, crazy. Not the way that you would usually do still life. Even, like, I have been to art school, and we did it with proper lights. You don't do this. Frustrating as hell. Anyway, so yeah, she was like, pulled me to the side and is like, oh, well, you know, have you done much with charcoal? And I'm like, not really. And we're having a talk about that because there's a lot of things that I haven't done. I've also taught watercolor, and I haven't done a whole lot of watercolor. So in my own time, under my own initiative, I've been making this, and I think it's pretty much finished. I just, like, I might go over with fine line, or I don't know, the pencil, but I don't know if I can really be bothered. It's kind of nice. I've given my patrons, like, a high-res version of this, and also the lines if you wanted to color it in yourself. Watercolor's not something I've done before, but I make a go at it. I've got this little dodgy, little tiny kit. Oh, a little thing, and comes in there. I can't be bothered to open it in case everything falls out again, because that's happened once or twice. Yeah, no, so we're talking about that, and I've told her, look, I'm not a traditional kind of artist, and my degree that I just did, you could do anything, it wasn't like structured. I've told her that so many times, and I even asked her, like, you know, how am I doing in this job? And in the past she's like, oh, if there's any problems I'll tell you, and I'm like, well, you kind of not. Because yeah, even in the school holidays I was kind of like trying to see if there was a way I could get out of that job, because it's just been trouble since the start. A few good days, but mostly trouble, which, yeah, I couldn't tell you about before because I was trying to be, you know, a good employee and not shit on my employer publicly. But yeah, now I'm sort of like, well, I can. Yeah, no, so we talked about that, and like, she's like, well, would you be willing to do all this homework? And in my head, I'm like, I could totally do the homework, because that's exactly what I just did. But if I do the homework, and then come in all set with what I've got, and she changes her mind, if you're gonna give me homework, you've got to stick to it, you know? This whole plan changing thing, so yeah, I was just like, oh, you know, I understand, like, you know, it's business and blah, 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 and I even said at one stage, like, I want to get your thoughts on this and all this kind of stuff. I sort of flipped the script a bit, because, you know, I didn't want to stay in that job, to be honest. Like, I said stuff like, I think while she was talking about, like, you know, you can stay, but you've got to do all this homework, I said something like, oh, maybe it would be better if I, like, went away and, you know, learn some skills, and, you know, there's this community college near me that I could go to and, you know, brush up on some skills, and then maybe, like, when I've done that, I can come back. And she's like, oh, in term 1, and I was like, oh shit, because I don't want to come back in term 1. So I said something like, oh, well, you know, we're already into term 4, so I probably can't enroll anymore, and, you know, she's trying to tell me I could start mid whenever, and I'm just like, ugh. So I did absolutely nothing to keep this job, and probably also put the idea in her head that I should go now. I said to her also, like, you know, if you want tomorrow to be my last day, I can leave an hour early, because, like, I was doing 4-hour shifts. I think the minimum that you can give someone is, like, 3 hours or something, so I was like, you know, I can just do that, you know, after teaching the kids can clean up and then go, because I won't need to make the other sample I was going to make for the Thursday class, which is this little clay gingerbread house thing. Yeah, but no, today she went away and she said, oh, I'll think about it and I'll let you know tomorrow. And then today I finally got the text message saying, you know, ending it, I don't even have to come in today, which I was like, when I found that out, I can just relax, I can make YouTube videos, I can just chill out with Hopi in the sun. So yeah, I'm really happy. And she also wrote, like, oh, I'm really sorry, you know, we can't keep you, kind of thing. And I'm just like, you're really sorry? I'm really happy, because it means I didn't have to have that conversation. Because, see, if she didn't fire me today, I was going to go in and be like, well, you know, I went away and I thought about it, and actually, like, it's not really working for me either, and I think we should just make today the last day. I had even rehearsed it in my head, and if she asked why, I had rehearsed that in my head as well, because I want to say it diplomatically. I don't want to be like, you suck, when I'm trying to leave a job. I would be more in a constructive criticism kind of way, so I would be saying something like, well, you know, I've thought about it, and, you know, I was thinking about what you said about the homework, and, well, the thing is, I'm the kind of person who really needs a plan, and if you don't give me the full plan, like if you're omitting things from the plan, or if you're changing it, I find that really difficult. And so, for example, with this week, you know, I had prepared to do the graphite, and then all of a sudden it's become charcoal, and I realized that because I'm not 100% with all these traditional mediums, if you want to be changing it all of a sudden, I don't have the flexibility to, you know, really keep up with what you want from me, kind of thing. It was sort of like that. I mean, I'm putting on a little bit of an attitude now. I would be much more, you know, passive and understanding, and like, but those were essentially the words and ideas that I was going to get across, that I was practicing in my head this morning. Oh my god, I had such a headache. Because here's another thing. I'm so off script now. Here's another thing. I have been noticing since I started this job, particularly once it became like every Wednesday and Thursday, because there were a few days where it was a bit different. But once it became regular, I started to realize, I mean, I didn't know at the time, but I kept getting sick in the holidays and then after, and then like every week I felt like I was getting sick. And when I look back now, it turns out every Wednesday and Thursday, sometimes on Tuesday, maybe in anticipation, in the middle of the week, I started to feel sick. So I'd be getting headaches and I'd start to feel like my system, I wasn't sneezing and coughing or anything, but you know that kind of congested sort of feeling. I don't know if there's a better way to explain it, but like I felt like I was starting to get congested and that any minute now I could start coughing and sneezing and all that kind of stuff. So I was actually starting to physically feel sick in the middle of the week. And I finally have put two and two together, and it turns out that, well, my theory is that this is related to this job, and it's probably because subconsciously, like, I'm stressing about this job, I'm anxious, I'm dreading it, because, I mean, apart from not really knowing how to deal with the kids properly, and, like, you have to be careful about the language you use, don't swear at the kids, don't use aggressive language, but at the same time you have to control their behavior. It's difficult, and I don't have a maternal instinct at all. I am not a girly girl kind of thing. So like, you know, worried about how I'm going to deal with the kids, especially if they're in a problem mood. Yesterday was okay though, because of Halloween I only had 3 out of the 7 kids in my class, and then one of them left early, so that was pretty easy. But yeah, anxiety about the kids, anxiety about like, anytime she gives me a new thing, like, this is not really exactly like what the sample was she showed me for the bird. The original one was facing in the other direction, much smaller, different style of flowers, like so much different about it. I've just based it on a similar idea and done my own version. Yeah, when she gave me that to teach the kids, that day was the first day on this holiday workshop that I had ever seen that picture, and all of a sudden I've got to know how to teach it. So anxiety about partly my art skills and just being thrown something without any preparation, and you know, just being like, I have to ask her, well, how do I teach this, and get a vague sense from her, and then I've got to figure out on the spot how to teach it. I'm just like, so anxiety about that sort of thing, and whether my art skills are enough. Like, she could throw me something really complicated one day, and I don't know, would I be able to handle it? Because I don't consider myself to be a particularly skilled artist, especially in those traditional methods anyway. So I kind of agree with her on that. That's something I have asked her about. I'm sure I mentioned it at the interview, but I'm not sure. Maybe I got a little bit nervous and just blanked out on that one. But yeah, that. But the main thing that has been stressing me out this entire time was that this lady just, she's really frustrating to work with, because she's always changing her mind. And she also, I think because she's so used to working with kids, when she's trying to tell you something, it often comes across as condescending. And like, I was making this a little elephant out of clay, and I asked her, like, you know, how would you teach them to do this mouth part? Because, you know, this is the way that I've done it. And then she's like, oh, you can do it this way. And you could have just left it at that. But no, she has to come along and close the mouth on the elephant that I've just spent this time working on. So now I have to make it again, and it's not as good the second time around. I'm like, just explain to me how you want it taught. I don't need you to give me a physical demonstration of anything. It's just... And same like last night when I was doing the jug, is like, I explained to her the shadow problem, because the shadows in that room were not at all natural, and she drew this terrible dodgy circle on my page at the bottom, and I'm just like, all you had to do was tell me. You know, I can draw myself. I don't need you drawing your wonky circle on my page like that. So, you know, a bit condescending in that way. Like, I'm not a kid. I don't need demonstrations of everything. Just tell me in words and I'll go do it. But yeah, no, not having, like, just as an employer, if you're going to employ someone, tell them the expectations. What do you expect them to do? Clearly, don't leave things out. Like, if you're going to give me a plan, don't leave things out of the plan. And if there is a plan already, don't change them, okay? Because sometimes, like, I'd be sent a plan by text in the morning and then get there and things have changed. Really frustrating. Anyway, I'm way off topic. So, what was I going to do? I was going to announce it and then talk about essentially what happened, which is as far as I got before I went off topic. So yeah, I was just going to come clean about the fact that actually I wasn't enjoying the job as much as I said it in that video about my work. a casual work kind of thing. Oh, speaking of the casual job, and here's another tangent, but the other cool thing about casual work is that you can leave at any time. Sure, you can also be fired at any time, but you can also leave at any time. And if I hadn't been captured by that sense of duty, I would have left so many times. And the other thing is, because, you know, I talked about having depression and feeling like that's affecting my ability to work, one of the things that also kept me in that job, like, I could have quit at the end of school holidays and not gotten into this 9-week commitment or whatever it is. But one of the things that also kept me in the job is just that I was thinking, well, look, I've been depressed. Maybe I just want to leave this job because of a psychological idea that it's too hard. Maybe I'm being weak. Maybe I need to stick with it and really give it a good chance. So some of that is like doubting my own judgment, because they're like right from the beginning, there's been problems that have made me uncertain about this job. But yeah, I was just like, is this really what's going on? Am I trying to take the easy way out? Yeah, because quitting things, you know, you're quitting, you're giving up, kind of, whatever. Yeah, so there's that. Yeah, so if I didn't have that issue, I would have just quit. If I didn't have sense of doubting my, you know, am I trying to get out of work again? I'm still doing the bonsai job. Bonsai's job's great. Like, I wish I had that every week. If I had the bonsai job once a week, that would be perfect. That'd be all I'd need to get me back on my feet for a while. At the moment, it's still only guaranteed to be once a month, but, you know, if I stick with it, maybe they'll need more help, and maybe I can do that. But yeah, no, the art job, yeah, I was worried about running away, so that's why I was with it for so long. That's why I couldn't really come clean about exactly how I felt about it last time. What else? Oh, I've already covered about my nervousness about my art skills and dealing with the kids. I've already dealt about the real issue being the boss. Yeah, no, she's bad at giving instructions, changes her mind, has unclear expectations and a condescending attitude. You know, like, I don't think she's really gonna watch my videos. I don't know if she even knows that I have these videos, because I was careful to leave my Destroy Mariko name off my resume and all that, because like, all that stuff, I'm not kid-friendly. She knows that I'm a heavy metal musician. I've said, like, look, this is what I am. I'm not gonna hide that kind of stuff, but I didn't really want to give the links to all that kind of thing. I wasn't going to make this video because, you know, like, if we'd been able to talk about it, and if I'd been able to say it, and if there was a chance, because, you know, before I was saying that thing about, oh, maybe I need to go away and learn some skills, and then maybe I can come back. If there was a chance that I might come back in the future, then I don't want to burn bridges. But now that it seems like with her final text message, even though we talked about it last night, to me there doesn't seem to be any option of me coming back. So now I'm like, fuck it, let's burn that bridge. So if she does end up watching this, I kind of don't care. And you know, we're already up to 23 minutes of me ranting, and I'm surprised that I haven't had to edit yet. I've just been like, because the next thing I was gonna do, oh no, the next thing on my list is talking about the problems from the start, but this is kind of related. I was gonna go through some of my Facebook posts, because on Facebook privately I have been complaining about this pretty much from the start. So yeah, that's the next thing I was gonna do, and I thought, well, if I'm reading out my things from Facebook, there's quite a lot that I've written, so maybe I need time to read it, and then I can cut clips of the things, you know, read a bit, talk about the bit, and then cut it, and like, yeah, so I haven't had to edit yet, but I probably will now, because let's talk about those problems from the start. In particular, other than her attitude, the kids, and my art skills, and like, I don't even like the kind of art, it's so conservative, because obviously you're working with kids can't do interesting kind of subject matter, otherwise you get all like, ooh, what's wrong with this kid that they're doing all this violent kind of imagery. So, you know, that part for me creatively is just really difficult. I was so bored watching that. And also, like, I'm not really doing art. I am watching kids do art, and I'm directing them and trying to make it look pretty, and they're really, most of the kids kind of suck, because they're kids. Kids don't have control with the fine motor, and particularly these days, this is something, oh my god, another tangent. This is something I wonder about, though, is like with kids, today's kids are brought up on screens, so I'm not sure that they necessarily get a lot of the fine motor skills with your pencil. So it could also just be because they're kids and they don't understand, but like with the pencil, they all press really hard. And I had to demonstrate to them, look, if you press really lightly, and they are capable of it. Like once I explained to it, they were able to press much more lightly, but I said, look, if you press lightly, it's so much easier to rub it out. And they were kind of like, oh yeah. But they don't seem to have a lot of control. And like, I know all kids are like that, but I just wonder if using the screens a lot has something to do with it. Because, yeah, also when they're using the paintbrush, it's just going everywhere, out of the lines, and they try and rush it, which doesn't help. One of the first things that I had to do when I was there was explain to kids how to use sticky tape. Like the concept that the sticky bit needs to touch the two things that you're sticking together. I actually had to explain that, and I'm like, I know that you're like 6 or 7 years old, but have you never used sticky tape before? I don't know, I thought they did that in preschool, but whatever. I wonder if that's a screen-related thing. Anyway, problems from the start. Originally, like, you know, I applied for a casual job, so I go in expecting it to be a casual job. I also was expecting to meet with a guy, but the first person to turn up was the boss lady, and I didn't even know there was going to be a boss lady, so that threw me off a little bit. But actually, no, the real issue was they're talking about the thing, and they mentioned nothing about payment in the job interview, and I'm a little bit too passive to ask, like, you know, how much do I get paid with this? And then they started talking about, you know, sometimes they do get people on as interns, and, you know, they do this work and then they decide they're going to go off and be a teacher. And I'm like, I am not here to be an unpaid intern. I am not studying teaching or anything like that. I replied to a job ad, not an intern ad. This is what I said in my head. And then after that, they were kind of okay, so they got me in for an unpaid trial, which unpaid trials, I think, are actually really dodgy, but I just went with it because I was kind of like, well, I don't know how to teach kids, I don't know about art, I don't know if I want this job, so I thought, well, and also I don't know how useful I'm going to be. The first day I don't know how useful I was, but the second unpaid trial, I feel like I did work for that and probably should have gotten something, but whatever, I agreed to it, and that's that. I just, like, knowing that they do unpaid trials, I'm kind of like, ooh, these guys might be a little bit dodgy. And then, especially because they had suggested the internship thing, and, like, I actually, on the second unpaid trial, I asked, like, hey, so about that intern thing, and that's when she said, oh, no, actually, we'll just employ you, and you know, here's the rate, and you get more as you gain more experience, kind of thing. But it was never properly broken down. I never got a contract or anything. So yeah, lots of little dodgy things that make you worry a bit. And then there was this one time I had to stay back 45 minutes because I was making that elephant that she closed the mouth on when I was like almost finished, and I'm like, I just did that, and now it's going to take me more time to fix it. Yeah, and I wasn't sure if I would get any kind of compensation for the 45 minutes, but they did eventually pay me for an extra half hour that day, so I was like, okay, well, that's alright. But it's just like, there's so many of those uncertainties, you know, am I being appreciated in this job? I got no idea until I actually see whether or not you're paying me for stuff. So there's just like lots of these little things that just for the whole time were making me think maybe this isn't the thing. But anyway, so we're up to half an hour. Let's quickly just skim through some of the Facebook things, and I think here I'm going to have to edit it because, yeah. So the first post was on the 28th of August when I had the job interview. Yeah, so at the job interview, I was a little bit worried because they seemed to think I was better at this kind of art than I actually feel like I am. So that was something that was concerning, and that's something that made me nervous about the art skill side of it. The other thing is, with my resume, like, I sent in some pictures of work that I've done, and they picked 2 that they thought maybe I could do a sample for the kids to, you know, work from. And I was a little bit uncertain about that one because with the way that I do, especially those paintings, like, I know, I tend to go in layers rather than in, like, blocks. kind of differently to how we were teaching the kids. And with the layers, like if I make a mistake, I just keep going over it and refining it until it becomes what I want it to look like. Yeah, and so I was just looking at this going, that took me a long time to get that result, and that's got a lot of layers, and I don't think that you're going to teach kids that very quickly. So like, I have no idea how I'm going to teach that kind of thing. So that's something I was nervous about from the interview. I described myself as more of a trial and error, just keep fixing mistakes until it works kind of person. So yeah, not really how you want to teach the kids, it's just how I do it. And with art, like, there's so many ways to get it right. You don't have to do it the same way as everyone else. But when you're teaching, you need to teach everyone a particular way, otherwise, like, it's just chaos. Then I mentioned about the fact that they didn't say whether or not I'd be paid, and how much I'd be paid. And then also those 2 days that I did the unpaid trial, actually they described it to me as you come in and observe. And I'm like, oh, a cute way to try and get around that, but whatever. I was like, oh, maybe I'll come and observe anyway because, like, oh, and helping out a little, just to see what it's like, especially because I didn't have teaching experience and all that. But yeah, then I was anxious about the whole interning thing because that wasn't what I wanted to do. And then I mentioned that they're nice enough people, and they were. It's just that her managing style was not for me. Like, I cannot deal with someone that disorganized. But yeah, no, nice enough people, and I mentioned that, like, it's probably a good way of staying connected to art post-uni, but I really wanted an actual job, and so I was a little bit concerned. If I had the bonsai job before this came up, I probably wouldn't even applied. I would have just stayed with the bonsai job, because that's more fun. I've been doing bonsai, I'll make a video about bonsai soon, and it's going to be so much easier for me to make videos now that I've got my Wednesdays and Thursdays free again. So yeah, anyway, that was after the interview. Let's move on to the next post. Yeah, the next post I make is on the 4th of September, and that's after I've done my second trial shift, unpaid kind of thing, helping out. And, you know, like, I think I got much more hands-on with that one and really, you know, was essentially working. And yeah, I talk about, like, it was kind of positive for me because that day I'd been feeling a little bit depressed, and so getting up and standing on my feet and doing stuff kind of distracted me from that. But yeah, lesson of the day, I said, that was the thing about the sticky tape. That's when I had to show them how to tape two things together. Like, some of them, they just got the tape and they only taped one, like they taped it, they're trying to tape two things on like a cylinder. So like two cylinders together, and instead of taping that way to connect them both, they were just putting it around the top, and I'm like, that is not how sticky tape works. So that was my complaint for that day. Oh, and then I had to go and get my working with children check, which is easy. Like, you know, if you've never had any complaint against you, you just go up to the RTA, what do they call them now? Service New South Wales, you pay your fee, they do the check, and it came back, I think the same day that I went, I got it back and approved. So I've got a working with children check for the next 5 years. Cool, and it's already been paid off too. And I'm gonna have to pause it because Mum's home. Anyway, so where were we up to? The next post that I make is on the 2nd of October. This is after I did my first school holiday shift, which I think might have been my first official shift. But yeah, so I complain a little bit. This is, I think, where I first properly start complaining about Boss Lady changing her mind a lot, not really telling me exactly what we're supposed to be doing, and that was also the day that I stayed back extra for the elephant thing, which took me the 45 minutes overtime that I got paid half an hour overtime for. So I mentioned that I'm glad it's not like retail and that I can also check out some art ideas for myself, but this is where I start thinking this is not going to be a long-term job for me. And I mentioned I've never started a job and been this annoyed this quickly before, and I don't think that's just because I'm more jaded now. And then she asked me to work on the next Tuesday, and that's when I had my first bonsai shift, and I was like, nope, can't work, sorry. And then I've made this table of things I was told I'd be doing versus things I ended up doing. And so it gives you a little bit of a sense of things that didn't really go to the plan that I was told. So the first thing I did when I got in, which is a thing I ended up doing and not a thing I was told to do, is I got in a little bit early to finish off the sample for that day's class, because I had not had time to do that in the previous shift. So, you know, you got to have a finished thing to show the kids, don't you? Then I was told to set up for 10 kids. What I ended up doing was I set up for 10 kids and then had to add 2 more at the last minute, which is like, I had everything there and now you want to add 2? Then we were supposed to have recess from 10:50 to 11:05, and instead we had recess at 11:30, even though I had my alarm go off 5 minutes before, like, we're supposed to go, and I said, okay, should we go to recess? And she's like, nah, later, and that's why we ended up having recess 40 minutes late, which just, like, if you give me a plan and you give me a time, how about we stick to it, especially when I am ready, like, the kids can stop, we can go and do the recess. Then we were supposed to finish by 12:15. We actually finished more like 12:30, which is not too bad, but still. And then she was going to show me how to mount the kids' drawings, because they go out for like lunch and then they have an activity and you're supposed to mount them to look nice and professional-ish, and so they can take them home. But no, she didn't show me how to mount. Like, the whole time I've been employed, I have not been shown how to mount the drawings. Instead, I cleaned up the room that I'd been in, and then helped clean up another room. And then I had to walk the kids to some activity, and that's probably the only thing that I actually did that was on the plan. And actually, the place that I was walking to them to, though, it's changed its name. So technically we were going to there, but that's not what it's called. Then I had to come back and have lunch, but while I was having lunch, I had to watch another class learning stuff so that I'd get some experience in how someone else teaches, and I'm like, it's kind of lunch, but kind of still working in a way. And then some extra things that I did is I set up the, after the, you know, external activity, they come back and they have to do another activity. So that's something I was not told that I have to do, is set up another thing. And then they do mosaics class, and mosaics come on this sticky sheet and you have to peel them off, and it's really annoying. Like, some of them get really sticky, so it takes a while to scrub off all this sticky stuff off them. So I had to peel them off the sheet and then put them in jars so that they're ready for the kids to use, and that's another thing I wasn't told I would do. And then I had to do the clay sample, which is something I was told I'd do. But yeah, I started it so much later than she said I was going to. And then, like, I had just started, I'd just done 15 minutes of work on it, and then I had to put plastic over it so it wouldn't dry out, and go back and pick up the kids from their external activity. Yeah, and then she got me to change some things about how I was making this little clay elephant. And yeah, you just, like, really, when I started it, I think I only had like 1 hour to do it, which it wasn't a 1 hour job, especially when you keep interrupting me and like closing the little mouth on it and all this kind of stuff. It was just like, so yeah, that was probably the first day that I really hated. I mean, there were like dodgy things going on, but that's the point where I was like, are you for real with this job? The next post I make is on the 3rd of October, so this is the next day, when instead of the drawing that I'd done the previous day, I was actually teaching that clay elephant that I had made. And here's a comment that I wrote. It's not really the kids who bother me. I feel neutral about them, other than being forced to act all primary school teacher-like against everything my self-image is telling me, ... It's actually more the boss lady and her inconsistent instructions and meddling that just rub me the wrong way. Yeah, so when I had been making the elephant the previous day, like, she told me, oh, that's great, like, you've done it, teach the kids exactly that. But when I actually came to teaching the kids, she added a step that I hadn't done. So I'm like, don't tell me it's perfect if you're just going to change it anyway. Then once again, we were scheduled to go to recess, but because of that extra step, we couldn't go straight away, and the kids were losing concentration. Kids need breaks, so, you know, let them go to recess instead of doing this extra stuff. And so when she wanted me to do another extra step, I was like, no, I put my foot down on that. I was like, look, the kids are losing concentration. I really think they need to go to recess. So we did. And this is fun. This is one of her contradictions. She contradicts herself a lot. So when I started showing the kids how to make the elephant, she told me only show them one step at a time, because otherwise, like, they're going to get confused, they're going to rush ahead, whatever. But then, I don't know exactly which, the very next thing that I was supposed to show them, she said the complete opposite and said, oh, no, you should show them all the steps at once for this section. And I'm just like, you just literally told me the opposite thing. And then she'd like leave me alone for ages. And so, like, you know, I'm like, okay, well, here's what I did, showing the kids how to do it. And then she'd come and contradict everything I said. No, no, you're doing it wrong. And I'm like, well, if you wanted me to show them a particular way, you should have told me, you know? Like, I'm not a mind reader. I don't know how you want it done. You know, like, don't make me look like an idiot in front of the kids. You're the one not giving me the instructions. Of course, I'm trying to do the best I can with what I think you want me to do. And then, yeah, like, at the beginning, she's like, oh, make sure they take their time. So we're taking our time. And she keeps coming and being like, slow down. But, so we spent ages on the basic steps for the elephant. And then, of course, we're running out of time. So we have to rush all the details. And I'm like, the details are the ones that you should take the most care with, you know? What? This is so backwards. Now we're rushing this? And then, yeah, she wasn't there to tell me how I'm supposed to wrap up this class. Like, that's the first time I've done clay. It's like one of the first times that I've done any of this stuff. And so, like, I don't know how you want things packed up. I don't know where you want them to put these clay animals to dry. I don't know any of that stuff. So, like, you know, you have to tell me these things in advance instead of when it's too late afterwards. And yeah, after all that, like, you know, interrupting the way that I'm doing things and telling me, no, no, you're wrong. After all that, she's like, oh, you did a great job. And so, like, this is the first time where, like, you know, I'm clearly not doing things the way you want me to. That's why I ask her, like, am I doing well enough? And she's like, yes. And I'm like, well, so with this recent stuff about how I'm not good enough, like, I've been asking you all this time. And now, for whatever reason you think I'm not good enough, like, it's just, I have been asking you. You know? And I've been trying to get out of this job in my own little way, but whatever. Yeah, and then I just end that post. It was quite a long one. I end that post saying, like, you know, I'm glad the 13th kid I was supposed to have didn't show up. I only had to stay back 10 minutes extra, so that was fine. You know, I speed cleaning the things in the sink from other classes, because, like, I was doing clay, so we didn't paint anything. Yeah, but, so I mentioned that I don't know if they're actually appreciating my effort, all that kind of stuff. I had a headache that day, so when I got home I had to lie down. Those holiday classes actually start in the morning instead of being afternoon ones, so I came home and I just like lay down, and I think I was really a little bit emotional, I think, and unhappy that day. Okay, the next post I make is on the 8th of October, and on the 8th of October, I'm in a much better mood. So I'm writing, the art school job was better today. Guess why? Drum roll. No boss lady. So I did have 2 problem kids. This is still during the school holidays, but I was told they, like, I could let them goof off with their clay. They didn't have to make, I think we did the elephant again. They didn't have to make the elephant if they didn't want to. But I just dealt with them separately to the other kids, because they weren't listening to the instructions. But, you know, I went over and they ended up making it anyway, and it was fine. And it was just so much better not having that boss lady hovering over me, contradicting everything, and, you know, also, like, having already taught it, I had a better idea of things, but it was mainly just not having the boss lady around. I think she was on an excursion taking some kids to somewhere to sketch real life stuff. And then, yeah, I think I had maybe a few other days doing stuff for that job. I don't know if I'm missing some of my posts. I know I didn't post every day that I had a shift, but these are just the ones that I looked up in Facebook search. Facebook search isn't great, but I can't be bothered to scroll back through all the crap that I'm always posting. So on the 17th of October is the next time that I could find that I posted. And that's when I had my first experience as an art model, which is just like posing, and they were a little bit impressed that I could just hold one position for ages without, like, you know, wobbling around a lot. You know, I'm just like, if you're told to be an art model, you have to stay still. It's not that hard. Anyway, I think I didn't really have anything to say about my job. Like, I was helping out another teacher who's teaching that sort of, like, you know, drawing models kind of thing. And yes, I was wearing clothes. These are kids. You don't want to be nude in front of the kids. But yeah, so that's all I commented on that one. I guess, like, there wasn't anything in particular that I had to say, because I think, yeah, that would have been week 1 of school term, so this is in the afternoon with the regular kids. I think the Wednesday drawing class, the introduction went reasonably well, and same with the Thursday we were doing the painting. because they're just drawing. It's not really getting into the complicated stuff, I guess. It was just basic outlines, because even in the drawing class, like, the next thing they were going to do is the watercolor, so they didn't need to make a heaps complicated drawings. So, and I think, like, the first day of term, they were a little bit more well-behaved, because it's new, like, new term, trying to pay attention, I guess. I don't know, I don't remember much. If there was anything that was terrible then, I don't know. I think with the Wednesday class, the boss lady pretty much left me alone. With the Thursday class, mostly, although I'm sure, like, she sort of, I think she sat down in the classroom because she knew some of the kids were problem kids and thought, like, if she was there, maybe they'd be calmer. So the next post that I make is on the 25th of October, and I start off going, oh, full stop, my, full stop, God, full stop, this job, ... And then I say that boss lady is up to her usual frustrating things, and I'm not imagining it because I talked to someone else there who was having the same problems as me. You know, like how the boss lady's inconsistent and it's really difficult to, like, you know, the plans are always changing. You can go away and do all this work and all this preparation and she can just bulldoze it in a second. I'm not the only person who thinks that. And perhaps my one regret about not going in today and talking to the boss lady about some of the issues and why I'm leaving is that I didn't get to tell her any constructive criticism, but I don't know if she would even want it. Some people don't, so I just like being able to say stuff, I guess, sometimes, but I also don't like that in-person confrontation kind of stuff, so her loss if she doesn't learn anything from it, and I think she's fine with the way she's running her art school anyway, so whatever. But yeah, I don't know how high their turnover is at this place in terms of employees. It could be high, or maybe I'm just the wrong person altogether. And then I also, second thing on that day I complain is about how much worse the kids' behaviour was that week compared to the week before, and I was really frustrated. And I was also concerned about doing the double life thing again, because, like, in high school I had to play a particular part, and so I was starting to feel like that with this job, and, you know, having been a bit more free, I don't really want to have to fake so much stuff. Like, the bonsai job's really good because I'm out the back and we both like heavy metal music and we've got stuff to talk about and I don't have to be fake, but at this job I definitely had to be fake. And then we get up to yesterday. So in the morning, this is before my shift yesterday, I made a post saying, I need to get out of this kids' art job. Been trouble since the start, and I just dread every time. Not even achieving much for me on the art side of things. Too bad my sense of duty is blackmailing me into finishing the school term, ... So yeah, yesterday I was just like, oh, I don't want to be here. Oh, and I missed the part, actually, about how, in the last week, you know, she had some issue with me, I don't know. But, yeah, a little while after that, she cancelled a couple of Saturday shifts that I'd volunteered for, which I was dreading, and I was so happy she cancelled them, and I suspect she cancelled them because of whatever it was that I did last week that she didn't like about my art skills. I don't really know what her issue was because she didn't really spell that out for me. She just assumes that I know. One thing I suspect is that because I've been thinking about how much I don't like this job, potentially it's not actually my art skills that are bothering her, it's that, like, something about what I'm thinking is coming through, perhaps in my body language, and maybe she got a sense that something was wrong and was like, oh, well, it must be that she's not good at art or something like that. Yeah, so I kind of wonder if it's more my thoughts sort of coming out into the world and she getting a sense of it and just not being able to place it. Maybe that's a thing. But anyway, so I was so happy she cancelled those Saturday shifts. I do suspect it's because she was having doubts about me, but either way, I was so happy. I was like, I don't have to do these Saturday shifts because they were morning shifts as well, and I was just like, I don't want to do them. And that's the other thing, I was dreading the next school holidays. I was just gonna, like, either do only one day a week or completely refuse to do them and just, like, quit at the end of term, but, like, so happy to lose those Saturday shifts. So I guess both of us were having, yeah, issues with the whole relationship. She doesn't know as much my side of things because I was quiet about it, because I was uncertain about whether or not I was going to stay in the job. But yeah, no, yesterday morning I was just like, wow, I really hate this, because that pattern of me getting sick, I was feeling sick yesterday as well. Yeah, so that's what that post. And then, oh, I posted another thing showing some of my practice with the graphite. That was this thing. with everything is stupid, so you can get a little bit of a sense of my mood. I was feeling rather negative. And then there's the post that I made after last night's shift, talking about how Boss Lady had decided I'm not good enough at the traditional media thing, and how I'm like, oh, I totally understand, you gotta do what's best for your business kind of thing. And yeah, I think I've already talked about most of what that conversation was like. That's basically what this post is. Yeah, and then I talk about, but here's the thing, even if I didn't hate the place and did do all the homework, she always changes her mind, so none of the unpaid out-of-work stuff I'm doing even ends up being relevant. So yeah, then I go over the graphite thing that turned into charcoal, and the thing about the 3 shades under that terrible lighting, you know, making it really hard to get any subtlety into the image that I was working on, and just the fact that she hadn't let me prepare, like, give me some warning, maybe if you change your mind midweek, like, you know, on the weekend, maybe you change your mind. Just send me a text message and be like, oh, actually, can you look up this? And I'll do it. But no, she didn't do any of that. Yeah, pretty much that post I've covered. You know, I was basically talking about that conversation yesterday, and, you know, how I wasn't really into this job, and it would be really good to have an excuse to leave before the end of term so that I don't feel heaps guilty. One thing I did add is, you know, it's lucky for them that I'm organized, because, you know, only 3 out of the 7 kids showed up and only 2 stayed for the whole class. So I actually have notes in a folder for them on where each kid is up to, so that whoever takes over can sort of look at it and be like, oh, okay, that's where they're up to. I mean, they could figure it out on their own, but there are some notes, and, like, I mean, I was doing that before I even knew that I'd be leaving this place, so that's just how I am. I'm trying to keep things organized, keep things together, because I'm always like, well, what if something happens to me? What if I get sick? Someone needs to know where these kids are up to. And also, like, maybe they're going to do a makeup class on another day when I'm not working, and so people can just look in the folder and be like, oh, okay, that's what that kid needs to do. Yeah, and then I sort of close on, like, you know, I can't wait till tomorrow's over, because at that point I thought I was still going to be working today. But yeah, no, I was like, I can't wait till it's over. I can stop dressing in white, inoffensive shirts, because I was trying to look normal instead of like a metal-ish chick. Yeah, and, you know, I could stop putting my hair in a shitty little bun, pretending to be nice and not swearing, you know, compared it to how things were like in school. Yeah, so relief at not having to be someone I'm not, and also not having to negotiate Boss Lady's frustrating idiosyncrasies. Ooh, big words. Yeah, and I talk about how I felt like I was getting sick in the middle for weeks and finally put 2 and 2 together. And I also say, like, I'm glad that my body decided to fake illness on me instead of making me depressed, because sometimes when things go wrong, I just end up depressed. But feeling sick's not nice, but at least I didn't end up depressed because of this, and for me that's the most important thing. I'm glad I'm getting out of it before I have a chance to get depressed. And yeah, then I sort of celebrate, and I'm like, even if she doesn't fire me, I'm gonna quit, and we are done, and we can be all good. And then yes, today, then I got that text message, and I can't read it out because it's on my phone and I'm filming on my phone, but it was like, oh, you know, sorry, we don't think we can keep you and you don't need to come in today. And I was just like, yes, because I was prepared to come in today, and I was prepared to have the thing and be like, look, I don't want to work here anymore, which would have been difficult because, yeah, you've actually got to tell someone, I don't want to work for you, and I just didn't want to do that. It's like, you know, if you've ever broken up with someone, you're like, I need to do this, but I also don't want to hurt your feelings kind of thing. It's a little bit like that, but in more of a job perspective. I just don't like making people sad, but, like, you know, I realize that if they ever do watch this video, they might get a little bit, wow, she's a bitch kind of, but, yeah, at this point I don't care anyway. But yeah, because, like, I didn't have that thing, I didn't have that pretending I might come back thing, that's why I'm, possibly fucking up that bridge, but hey. And then, oh yeah, I posted 2 hours ago, I don't know actually when I'm posting this video, but 2 hours ago from when I'm filming, I posted a photo of me cooking pasta and basically celebrating being fired, because yeah, I have my veal tortellini, I've got my bolognese sauce with red wine, which is the closest I ever get to having any kind of alcohol is when it's like cooking alcohol in the red wine. Yeah, it's pre-made sauce, so I didn't actually put red wine in it, it's already in there. And yeah, I've got like a kind of face. So yeah, those are my posts that I could find about this job. It's been an experience, but not a particularly pleasant one, and now I know that I don't want to teach kids art, and I don't think I want to teach art anyway, and I definitely don't want to teach kids. I've sort of been thinking, like, you know, so I've only got the bonsai job now, and it's not very regular. It's probably enough that I can survive, like, keeping my my private health insurance stable in terms of not reducing my bank balance too much, but means that I can't do a whole lot extra. But on the other hand, I have a lot more time to myself now, where I can make the YouTube videos, I can do my own art instead of conservative pretty stuff, work on some music maybe, do some more bonsai. Like, it just, I feel a lot more free. And I've got an exhibition coming up with my uni, which I still have to do some work for. Yeah, getting a little bit nervous about that, so I've got more time to work on that. And just in general, yeah, it's such a relief not to be at this job anymore. And I'm sorry if it was a little bit misleading in that previous video about casual work, but I was trying to put on a positive face and a positive spin, and now I don't have to be like that anymore. So yeah, that's my life update, coming clean about all this stuff. Sorry it's such a long video, although I haven't edited it yet, so I don't know, maybe it was... No, it's gonna be long, because it's me, of course it's gonna be long. Anyway, so, cool. I don't know what the next video is gonna be, because I do have one scheduled for next Wednesday, but hell knows I'm gonna go on more rants in between, although I should actually edit. I haven't had a whole lot of time to edit some of the other videos, so I better get editing this one, and I will see you when I see you. Ciao for now. So, yeah, where was I going with that? Oh, see, like, this is the problem with not planning, is I go on a tangent and then I forget what I was saying. Oh, no. Was there one more thing I had to say? I got distracted by my email coming in because I'm at the computer. Yeah, see, this is where I'm like umming and ahhing, and maybe I should edit this out.